You're not trying to grow us into being this, you own a gym and you want us to pop up in your gyms and spread out all over the country to do your thing. It's you want us to grow into our own and step out into our power and do our own thing. And it's so cool. Right?
It's true.
Yeah. And that's the difference.
So the bigger story and what we're pioneering here, why we're even doing this, even with this docuseries, is to provoke conversations in proactive health. We're at a point in the industry, or in the healthcare industry and yoga industry, where there is a lot of curiosity and questions coming up of, is this really working? Is this really sustainable? When we observe healthcare, it's very siloed. It's we've been talking about this for over 10 years as a collective, right? We know healthcare structures and systems, it's a mess. And actually if we're speaking from yoga therapy perspective, a lot of patients who come to yoga therapy, it's because they're wore out by the healthcare system. Or people in my yoga teacher training programs, my trainees will share stories about that being what got them into yoga, is they're looking for something else. And so when we get into this wider conversation of, well, what do we do, right? What are the options to shift the system from being so siloed but into integrative care? It's great for all these mind-body initiatives to happen, but the common denominator between everything is the nervous system. Inflammation and stress, it all sits at the table with all of this stuff. So this is that continuous thread. And then I'm over here teaching yoga, right? And I'm looking at yoga and I'm going, okay, well, yoga is medicine for the nervous system, right? We're creating new neural patterns. We're down-regulating the nervous system. We are, cooling GABA, or helping the GABA response. It goes on and on. Vagal tone, knowing ourselves, community. There's all this stress reduction just speckled in everywhere you look when it comes to yoga philosophies and yoga modalities. So naturally, I look at yoga therapy and all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is a really powerful solution for proactive health and wellness. And it's about how we position ourselves in these co-creative relationships to benefit the wider landscape of our culture for sustainable wellness and at-home care. So our medicine helps their medicine helps our medicine, and really being part of that conversation and stress management. So when we look at the wider, bigger picture of this, we're part of the history that our grandchildren will look back and say, how do you make healthcare more accessible? You bring it home. You talk about not disease management, but truly proactive wellness, and shifting out of disease management and into proactive wellness. So that's what my prayer is, and that's what I hope to be part of with these wider conversations.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cheryl Kraus. I am the program chair for the Master of Health Science and Integrative Care at Northwestern Health Sciences University. I have been, for the past 2 decades, in the field of health and wellness, and I have worked as a yoga practitioner, a licensed massage therapist for 20 plus years. And I see that this is rolling in the direction of needing to elevate the educational opportunities for individuals that are in the mind-body space, lifestyle medicine, all of that. The practitioners that would have typically been linked in CAM, complementary alternative medicine. We were almost held on the fringe end of healthcare. And I think what we need to do, and what I am helping to bring forth, is the recognition for the expertise in these kind of niche fields, whether it's yoga or meditation or mindfulness and whatnot, and how it fits into the health paradigm for each of the patients that we are trying to help.
I provide wellness services to everyone in the community, but I work with first responders, I work with veterans, I work with people experiencing homelessness, and then I work with families and children and pretty much everybody in the community. Something about Battle Minds is that I truly believe that humanity, we're interconnected, and so the struggles that you face, they interface with my life as well. So like if first responders are struggling because they're not getting their needs taken care of, because their wellness isn't taken care of, because of the trauma that they see every day, because of things that are happening every day, they're going to show up like that. And then it's going to affect the larger community. And veterans, if they're not getting the care they need, they're also going to show up like that in the community. And it's going to hurt our families, it's going to hurt our communities, and it's going to hurt the person. And those experiencing homelessness as well, like how we treat people and how we see our connectedness is going to show up. And if we begin to understand that we are connected, then we can heal and we can help other people heal, and the community can look different. I was working with a veteran and we were talking about mindfulness, or just like tapping or doing something to release stress in the body, opening our arms and our armpits and like being free and doing this. And so we did it in our session. I'm like, just do it, try it, open your arms, like do this, like let's just do it for a few minutes. And then I was just joking with him because he does it's something with pigeons where you can watch them and train them to do different things. And then I was like, jokingly, I was like, then you could start to fly. And then he's like, you're going too far. And I'm like, just laughing. But we were both like laughing about it when we were ending session, because you can bring humor and teach people the new skills and like just have them be open to trying new things while you're in session. I think that was like really powerful and something that I wouldn't have known if I wasn't in your class. And so it was like really helpful for me, and also helpful for this veteran, because they did text me later in the week and they're like, I tried it and it did help me.
I really feel like, and I think it's just something that everyone kind of starts off feeling like, okay, yoga just is on the mat. This is, you roll out a mat and you get on there and you perform poses. The more that you achieve or the further you get within these poses, and that's how you become a better yogi. And that's, of course, not true at all, right? Like, the goal is just to find that connection with your body and your mind. And that can happen on the mat or off the mat. And that's been transformative, wholeheartedly.
That I had to be in a studio, that I had to be on a mat, that I had to have somebody telling me exactly what pose to do next, how I was supposed to end. And then that was it until the next week when I went. Now I am doing it in my shower, and I'm doing it while I'm outside with the dogs, or after my run when I'm doing my cool down in the middle of nowhere. And it can really just be anywhere and everywhere. And it doesn't have to look like on the mat, in the studio, structure. It can look like how I'm going through and flowing through my day. I think the biggest thing for me was, as I went into this new stage of life, I was so used to going, and just, we were constantly on all the time. Taking the time to slow down and reevaluate how I was living, and looking at so many people that I work with, that I'm close to, that struggle with trauma, especially military trauma, because that is a class all of its own, as all trauma is. But being able to start bringing in some of those practices and watching that person that really struggles with PTSD start to implement some of the stuff that I'm talking to them about themselves, watching their life improve because of it is amazing. And then shifting to a completely different spectrum and talking to an older lady in my Bible study at church and implementing practices with her that, at the way she was raised, in the time she was raised, that wasn't even talked about or an option for her. And watching the light kind of switch on and see that, okay, this is a new way of self-discovery that helps me through this, but I can still focus on my faith at the same time. It's just been magical to watch all the different areas that I can implement it and other people implement it.
Dr. Andrew Reichert. I'm a psychologist. I'm a graduate of Melmori's Academy. I'm a registered yoga teacher at the RYT 200 level. I think that the mindfulness piece, to tell you the truth, so much of yoga has also to do with mindfulness while you're being on the mat. And mindfulness can be an aspect of mental health and mental health therapy. And I use a lot of that in my work, as well as just my personal life, trying to stay centered in the moment, the present, not getting my anxious mind going off into the future with things that haven't happened yet and may never happen, or getting stuck too much in the past. That intersection, I think, of mindfulness with yoga and mental health is key. There's a saying, the macro is micro and the micro is macro, that's coming to my mind right now. And I find in my own life, when I'm on the mat, whatever may be going on in my mind or in my life off of the mat, it has this interesting way of showing up on the mat too, in terms of my body. If I'm feeling all wound up about something, then my body will be feeling all wound up. There's something about the mat that can allow me to try to ease some of that off. I think it reflects the whole mind-body connection, which of course we also know from medicine and with mental health. Mental health concerns can manifest themselves physically, anxiety, for example, and elevated blood pressure, and the opposite can also happen. People dealing with medical conditions, physical ailments, can also, that can manifest in mental health concerns too. A serious medical diagnosis, for example, could lead to depression or anxiety quite easily. And so the mind-body connection is real, and I see it both on and off the mat in my own life.
Well, my name is Fatima Garza. I am in Laredo, Texas. For the last 16 years, I've been in the mental health, behavioral health field. I started out with substance abuse treatment. Currently, I work in a medical clinic, and I'm one of the behavioral health consultants here. So we provide integrated behavioral services. Mindfulness, I think, it can be everything. It literally can. When I started learning about mindfulness a few years back, I remember it was the people who were sharing it with us were very rigid. It had to be a certain way. You had to sit a certain way. You had to, think a certain way and follow a certain way for it to be mindful. And I remember at the time, I had already started practicing on my own in my home, what's called the home practice, following videos and everything. And I remember the teacher that I would follow on YouTube, she would say, it's, just bring the breath to you, bring everything, center it. And that was mindfulness to me. So I would be the rebel in the group. I wasn't the one that wanted to that had to sit the certain way. I wasn't following a lot of their rules, their rigid rules. And I remember I told them once, you can be mindful washing your hands. You don't have to, create the environment. It's inside of you, and you expose it to the outside world. So it was so funny that I never got invited back to those groups because I didn't agree with their way of doing it. So that's just the way I see it. And so much of, not all of it obviously, but so much of the mental health factors are external. They're society, economic or financial, just everything we see. And if we can see internal or see ourselves from the inside out, we can see that we can mindfully integrate it into our lives and be able to, I can't say we're going to cure, but reduce the symptoms, reduce the impact that it has on us.
Leading yoga teacher trainings and education, I feel like are the anchor, the seed of how stories and things get passed on, right? It's like everybody learning these different things because we can bring it into public health, we can bring it into public education, every corporation, every company, bringing it into homes, right? We talk about childhood and How do we heal families and children? It starts in the home. So I don't think that yoga is exclusive to anybody. And the reason I love being an educator in this work, what excites me so much is seeing the transformation and the radical forgiveness people offer themselves. Not because I told them to, but because yoga does what yoga does, right? We get into these intimate spaces and places, and as they're learning these new concepts, witnessing the light bulbs go off, or like I said, forgiveness. I look at the training programs as a lot of unlearning. It's like we're unlearning a lot of old programs, and that we get to meet ourselves as we are. And when we do that, we can really source the actual gifts that are within us versus the pseudo gifts the world tells us we need to find or be, which is all external and outside of ourselves. But there's so much internal within ourselves.
I thought that, to be a yoga instructor, you needed to be super spiritual, like have the perfect body, know everything about yoga, and have had the perfect life. Like your typical yogi of like, everything's great. And it's like, and I come from this world of darkness, and like, yeah, I'm in the light right now, but like I have this past, and like I'm not gonna be your perfect yogi, and I'm never gonna be able to, memorize a perfect sequence and be this object of perfection that I see on Instagram or social media. Like that's just not something that would bring me happiness, but I love yoga, so I'm gonna try it. And since the training, it's like yoga, like you say, yoga does what yoga does. And like I've come into my own, I've found my own unique style. I haven't felt the need to fit into a mold. I haven't had issues with like my body image, which is something that people don't really talk about, but I've always, I can't be a yoga instructor because my body isn't like this, or like, all that stuff. But like, I haven't had those thoughts. Like I feel comfortable and I feel like I belong. It doesn't just happen in a studio. That it happens, yoga and mindfulness can be carried into every aspect of life. And as someone who only practiced yoga on the mat for so long, and have recently, since I started the training, brought it into other aspects of my life, I just wish people knew how transformative the power of yoga and the lifestyle of yoga is. It just makes your day easier. You don't freak out about the small things. You're more accepting. I show more love to my family, my husband, my child. I find more laughter in my days. I'm lighthearted because I take it off the mat and I use the philosophies in my daily life. I don't let little things get me down like they used to. And knowing that it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to feel your feelings, because there's, strength and ease that can come from that. And like you say, to reframe it, I mean, that's what you have to go through, is like, and I think it's found for me somatically, like you said, in the poses, and then it happens naturally off the mat. It's not something I forced.
I feel like what I created was really what my dream of what I wanted. Like what I wish my experience was, like that's what I want to give others. And I teach you guys a lot about contrast, that oftentimes we learn who we are because we experience who we're not.
Yeah.
Right? I think about like my path had a lot of these hard experiences because it was exuding or illuminating to me what not to do, which directed exactly what to do.
It's one of the things I love about so many yoga teachers. It's like, you listen to your own body, do what feels right. And there's yoga teachers often will give some guidance and maybe some corrections of a postures is, to help with form and safety. But so much of it is about, honoring your space. It's actually one of the things that I think in my own personal yoga journey, I've noticed most. When I first started yoga, my mind was constantly comparing myself, to the person on the mat next to me, or looking in the mirrors. Some of the yoga studios where I practice, they have lots of mirrors. And so I'm not only critiquing myself because I'm looking at myself, but then I'm looking over at the next person, wondering how my posture compares to them. That was in the beginning days. Now I focus more on just myself I'm on my mat. This is my time. This is my practice. This is where my body's at right now. I don't have to compare it to everyone else in the room.